It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you, standing in front of my authentic Filipino gong, my Kulintang gong, the most authentic Filipino brown thing up here. It's me, Emil. Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my takeout, my Emil Amok's takeout. Wow, that big, ugly bill has passed. I've got my buddy, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, Professor Emeritus, San Francisco State, Asian American Studies, College of Ethnic Studies. He's going to join us in a second. We're going to talk about that. We're just going to tear it apart and figure out what happened. What happened to the big ugly? Well, I call it the big ugly, the bugly. Some people call it the big beautiful. But it's a zero-sum thing. There can't be both two winners. It's a one winner, one loser. And the beautiful won out, even though it's very bugly. I don't even know how many people have actually read the bill. 900 pages. I mean, they know what parts are affecting them and what parts are important to them, but have they really read the bill? So we'll get into it. I also want to talk about the Diddy trial a little bit. It's a nice distraction because it feeds into the lawlessness that we're in. And then we'll also talk about America. With this big, ugly bill, are we moving into fascism? We're moving into, if you don't want to use the F word, and I understand. Maybe you want to use the A word. Well, I'll get into that in a bit. Anyway, before we get to Dan, let me talk about Emil Amok at the Winnipeg Fringe. I know you're saying Winnipeg? Is that like an Indian casino somewhere, Emil? No, Winnipeg is up in Canada. Winnipeg, the Jets. No, the Winnipeg Fringe is the second largest fringe festival in Canada. And I'm going up there on my 51st state tour. Well, I'm not really for them being the 51st state, but, we're going to talk about it. Trump certainly wants it. I don't know. 51st. I'm talking about my show, Emil Amok 69. It's up there. Winnipeg Fringe, July 16th through 27th. If you're watching this on YouTube now, there's a link. You can see me there. Yeah, I do this one-man show. I say, I've seen you do, some stand-up around Northern California, and I'll come to your house and do stand-up if you will. I'll come to your Kiwanis Club and give a speech if you want. But this is actually a fun thing. My one-man show, which I've done I've done excerpts at the Marsh in preparation for this, and now it's coming to the Winnipeg Fringe, and a full hour of me talking, which I must say is a fraction of what Hakeem Jeffries did. Speaking for almost 9 hours, did he go? It's the longest speech in congressional history. I mean, it beats Jimmy Stewart, right? Mr. Smith and all. Well, that's fictional, Emil. I know. Oh, yeah. Actually, the speech that held the record was, what's his name, right? The Republican Speaker of the House from California, who held it for about 8 minutes or so, or 8 hours or so, trying to block the Build Back Better, right? That Joe Biden plan, which was also passed through the concept of reconciliation, where you don't need a supermajority. It's a fast track procedural issue. It's called reconciliation. And the last time Kevin McCarthy stopped a Democrat plan, because the Democrats had the majority and all the Republicans could do is just talk. And now Hakeem Jeffries, because all the Democrats could do was just talk on, that's what he did for almost 9 hours, held the record. He was good, though. He was good. At the end, he may not have won the battle, but he let everyone know that the war was not over. Remember John Lewis, remember Good Trouble, and remember that now is the time to press on. That was a nice phrase. Now is the time to press on. So press on. Oh, not neatly press on nails time. No. Although, if you're Vietnamese, I mean, no, press on. We must press on. That's what Hakeem Jeffries said. So we'll talk more about that with Dan, but let me just finish up about the Winnipeg Fringe. I'm going to do this. I do this hour one-man show, and if you've seen me in New York or Washington, D.C., or wherever, Orlando, San Diego, little bits of the Amok monologues are put together, and now they've come to form. It's kind of my one big, beautiful one-man show. That's what I'll call it. I'll call it the one big, beautiful one-man show. Because I don't want to say it's the big ugly. Because my show actually is the antidote to the one big, beautiful bill. I mean, you could see it that way. Excuse me. God, I don't know where the... I can cut off the mic here. Oh, here. Did I do that? Did I cut it off? Oh. I didn't cut it off. Sorry, but excuse me. I need to try it again. Oh, that worked. See, that worked. I muted me. Isn't it funny when you want to mute yourself? Like all our COVID stories. You're muted. You're muted. Oh, what do I do? You're muted. Okay, anyway. Actually, that's a good thing. The one big, beautiful one-man show. Emil Amok 69. Winnipeg Fringe, July 16th through 27th. If you're watching me now, go on the link and check it out. Check it out. If you're in Winnipeg, I mean, I'm not saying go to Canada. If you have to go to Canada for some reason, Canada's beautiful right now. Anyway, check it out. Winnipeg Fringe, Emil Amok 69, name of the show. One big, beautiful one-man show. Winnipeg Fringe, July 16th through 27th. All right, and now let us welcome. We're talking about the one big ugly. The one big ugly bill. It's an ugly bill. It got passed this morning, and it got passed in the light of day. You know, they always try to do the votes at night, like at 1 o'clock, at 2 o'clock when people are asleep, so they can vote and leave town, sort of like, like doing something illicit and then sneaking off. Now, what Hakeem Jeffries did by speaking, starting at 5 a.m. and going till about 10:30, 11 o'clock Pacific time, he forced the Republicans to vote in the light of day. People saw them. They can't get around it. They passed the biggest takeover or transfer of wealth from the poorest to the wealthiest. That's usually a transfer of power that you like is from the rich to the poor. This is from the poorest. The poorest get poorer and the wealthier get wealthier. It's been called the reverse Robin Hood. It is the big ugly. And not only that, not only is there Medicaid cuts, 12 million cut in Medicaid, but there's also an extra 3.3 trillion put on top of an already $37 trillion deficit. Conservatives have lost the right to call themselves conservatives. Conservatives have lost the right to say they're fiscal hawks. They're not. They just passed the biggest budget buster in American history. And so let me bring up my friend of the show, my fellow analyst, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, San Francisco State University, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, Professor Emeritus. And let me put it, he likes to always be on the left side. Hi, Dan.
Hi. Good afternoon, sir. as it
Well,
is, July
yeah.
3rd. Are you looking forward to tomorrow, July 4th? Are you going to be celebrating, commemorating the day?
Yeah, I am going to commemorate the day because on July 4th, 1775, they signed the Declaration of Independence, right?
Yes.
Right? Which declared our independence. And on July 4th, 2025, at 2 p.m. Pacific, President Trump is scheduled to enslave all Americans to the biggest, most scary, dangerous piece of legislation that transfers wealth from the poor to the rich and really puts us in peril for the future. We are more, if the conservatives were afraid of debt, they just added about $3.3 trillion to the deficit. So one thing Hakeem Jeffries said is, yeah, Project 2025 is bad, but Project 2026 is when the American public gets to vote out all those who supported Project 2025. And that's Project 2026, the midterms. So, what say you, Professor Dan?
Well, no surprise.
Yeah.
This was going to pass. The Republicans are all going to fall in line, despite the fact that many of them, a significant number of them in both houses, expressed very accurate criticism, including criticisms about the hypocrisy of being supposedly the party of reduction of the national debt and on the likelihood of increasing the national debt. The thing that bothers me about all of this is that when are the adverse effects actually going to be felt by the public in a manner that will cause them to at least reconsider their political position, particularly if they voted in favor of Trump and in their particular state circumstances, they voted in favor of Republican candidates. When are they going to realize that vote has really set back American society in a wide variety of ways? The scope of the negative impact is very wide, and the immediacy of the impact economically may come sooner than they think. I'm not just thinking about the BBB. I'm also thinking in terms of the failure to resolve the circumstances that have been caused by his use of tariffs, the president's use of tariffs.
Oh yeah. The tariffs aren't going to be. He's not going to pause them. Beyond they're going to take effect. He's going to start
next week,
the trade war,
supposedly, but he may suspend them again.
Well, you never know. This is the thing. Trump always chickens out, right? TACO, TACO.
Yeah.
Today was CACO. Congress always chickens out, and it's not a pretty picture. I was reading a Politico was talking about how it went down, and it looked like, because there were at least 5, 6. There are a number of holdouts in Congress. It looked like maybe if the reps got it together, they could send this back, to the Senate, and that would hold it up even more. But apparently, and there was one guy, this guy Norman, who pretty much, they all went to see Donald Trump, right? And Norman said, what happened? He was asked what happened. He was on CNBC, and he said, well, we talked to the president, and the president said some of these things that we were upset with, that he'd take care of as the executive, as far as he could through executive orders. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what he believed, right? And these guys are believing in a guy who has lied so many times to the American public that it's hard to imagine, you've got a bill like this and you're going to take the word of Donald Trump. This is what Ralph Norman, Republican, South Carolina, he said, he talked tough earlier in the week. He said, the reason we have credibility is they know we'll vote no. He said that before he voted yes, later on Wednesday. And then he explained his vote this way. He said, we met with President Trump. What's different is President Trump is going to use his powers to, like on the subsidies, to make sure that it's a lot of these subsidies, and he's talking about the Green New Deal, right? A lot of these subsidies to make sure that a lot of these subsidies won't remain in effect, from here on out. So, in other words, they forget the law, they took the word of President Trump that he'll just refuse to live up to the law. They went with the lawlessness of that's Trump's power. He's going to use his executive powers and undo all the things that are in the law. And that was good enough to get Ralph Norman's vote of South Carolina. He was one of those who definitely was a no vote. There were only 2 no's. And if you look at the vote, it was 218 to 214.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the 2 no votes were Massey and Fitzpatrick, I think. Fitzpatrick of New York, but only 2. And there were all these others. Chip Roy, Texas, Norman, South Carolina, all these tough talking Republicans. And in the end, it was Kako. Congress always chickens out, especially when it's, doing the right thing or doing the Trump thing. And they went with the Trump thing.
Yeah. Well, see, what it comes down to is this, right? The Democrats are saying all of these things are going to happen, and they got the CBO behind them, the Congressional Budget Office. And Medicaid is going to be adversely affected. A lot of people who may not survive health-wise if their Medicaid is reduced or eliminated. And a lot of small hospitals and clinics will also be likely to shut down. The problem is, I don't think some of those shutdowns are going to occur immediately. Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the clinics and hospitals, especially in rural areas, right, have always been operating on disastrously low margin, if any margin at all. A lot of them are already in debt, and they're in long-term debt. And so they will likely close down first and the earliest. That will be disastrous for people who live in those areas. It will force them to shut down their own businesses, maybe give up farming and sell out to large corporate entities and move closer in to where they can get access to healthcare, if they can get access to healthcare. Just because they move in doesn't mean it's going to be affordable. So you have 2 problems, right? You have geography as an issue, and you also have cost of economics as an issue. So those are going to be the first to hit. What people aren't looking closely enough at, right, is that the big beautiful bill also cuts back on subsidies for green
right.
ecological activities. Those will be hit almost immediately. I mean, within a matter of days, at the most, a matter of a few weeks. That's going to hit immediately. Now, how that's going to affect states that have weak infrastructure, whether or not they're connected to the wider net, right, of energy supply, that remains to be seen. How badly are they going to get hit? Also, FEMA is being defunded. Okay?
Oh yeah.
And the target, they have said, is to wipe it out and replace it with something else. Put it back in the hands of the state. Okay. Again, a burden that many states, particularly red states, are not likely to be able to easily take on. In fact, that they're going to have trouble. They're going to go into debt themselves because they can't defend themselves. How many red states, when they're hit with tornadoes and floods, right, and fires, right? How many of the red states have immediately turned to FEMA and for federal support? Right?
Oh yeah, well,
every single one of them.
it's because as soon as a disaster hits, you declare an emergency so that you can tap into federal funds, and then a president, whether Democrat or Republican, goes down there and says, we're going to help you, here's FEMA. And there may be some bureaucratic snags, but in the end, FEMA is there to help. And it's unbelievable that those red states like Florida, like South Carolina, like Texas even, that they were all for these cuts. North Carolina, South Carolina, and
Kentucky, West Virginia.
What's going to happen? I mean, we're going to have, well, as you were saying that, Dan, I was thinking, I've been saying this all a while, that America is turning into a third world country just like that.
Yeah,
we're gonna have so many. If you think we're a divided country between haves and have-nots, look, California is like the fourth largest economy in the world. It probably will be able to weather the storm a lot better than states that are not as big.
Yeah.
Are not as wealthy.
California also has a diverse economy. Agriculture is a main aspect, but it also has technology, on its side. And so we already have made investments in infrastructure that we can carry on. And some of those can be carried on independently of federal funding. We can just keep doing it, We can look for major investment from large corporate interests to maintain the direction of our energy resource development. Battery development, alternatives to lithium-based batteries. All that kind of research is being done right here, in point of fact, right here in the Bay Area, right in Northern California. And so I think we're going to see the opportunity to do that. I think also we can look forward to the possibility of partnerships with foreign investment. Okay, we should
California.
California as a state. The West Coast can do that. Yeah. Oregon has geothermal resources as well as Washington, and we can look for partners in that. We can partner with Canada, right, as well. Yeah. Alaska has some geothermal resources. We don't have to go back to oil, right? They're also experimenting with ocean-based energy resources. There's a lot of things that can be done that the West Coast has that the rest of America does not have. And I have jokingly said before, right? We should just go ahead and secede from the freaking union.
Well, yeah. Like I was saying, the country as a whole is going to be. It's going to be a road with all these potholes, and those potholes will be entire states that don't have the wherewithal to fix up infrastructure damage from natural disasters that have come their way that would have been taken care of by FEMA. And I don't know what the answer is on the part of who fills the void, but I gather that some of the Republicans who pushed for this bill were saying, well, we'll have our buddies who, start private businesses. It'll be private enterprise.
That's privatization is always the goal. Yes.
Yeah. But it's going to be very uneven throughout.
You can assign this, people say that it's not ideological. I'm going to argue that it is ideological. Okay. And the ideology is that all capitalism is good. Okay. All private ownership of all activities, industrial activities, right? Job creating activities, right? All of that should be managed in a capitalist manner by free enterprise, private ownership. Okay, that is the ideology, and that's what's driving the Republican Party. It always has been driving the Republican Party. Okay, it's just that now you've got somebody at the top, not only of the party but in the presidency, in the Oval Office, that is seeking self-enrichment. And so if all capitalism is good, then the self-enrichment of the person who has the responsibility to act on the law and to execute, right, the laws of the Constitution, okay,
Yeah.
is doing it for self-benefit. He is not. He's violating the laws and violating the Constitution on a daily basis. And the
Yeah.
Republican Party has joined him in that process. And the public is sitting there and saying, well, maybe, I don't know what's going on. And the harm that the Democrats keep saying is going to come may not come fully for a number of years. And so when you keep saying this is what's going to happen, you're going to become the boy who cried wolf. Okay, you're going to become Chicken Little. You're going to keep saying, you guys are going to get hammered. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. It's going to be terrible. Everything's going to go crazy. It's all going to fall apart. And when it doesn't happen, right, in immediate terms, you end up looking like the wimps that you are. Okay,
Yeah.
Democrats, especially the elder leadership of the Democratic Party, and I'm impressed by an 8-hour plus speech. Okay, but it's a speech. Damn it, you got to do something. Okay?
Yeah, well, press on. It did have a call to action. Keep pressing on, because the only power they had, and the reason why the speech was like is because they don't have the votes. They don't have the majority.
They're the minority. Yeah. It means not. You have no power. Okay. So
right.
My question, I've always asked this of you, right? Okay. Yeah. If they win both houses, so what? What are they going to do? If they have both houses, what are they going to do? Do they have the guts to go hard? Okay. You're seeing more action being taken by attorneys general and governors of blue states, right?
Yeah.
Than anything going on by anybody in Congress. It's disgusting. The Democratic Party leadership on a national level disgusts me. I am not just disappointed. I am disgusted.
Well, the lack of action is something, but something that Speaker Johnson said as he signed the bill, or just before he signed the bill, he said this bill was necessary because of the woke Biden-Harris administration, and and yet I'm thinking, wow, this guy is just totally off his rocker. He's taking something that Biden and Harris built, and they're turning it over. And it seems like the last time when Biden and Harris beat Trump, they had to work to right the ship. We had it righted, and then Harris lost, and now here comes the Republicans turning it back around and going upside down again. I mean, we're just constantly flip-flopping.
It's actually worse now. It's worse now.
Oh,
because there are fewer people holding Mr. Trump back. In fact, now he's got people who are encouraging him to go further than even he could have imagined, or has he imagined in his first term. So there are a couple of questions that were put to him by the press over the last 48 hours, and he actually didn't have answers to them because he didn't know that the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid were in the bill. Okay, he did not know. He still says we're not going to touch it. That's what he kept saying. Yeah. And at the meeting, he was addressing both members of both houses, Republican members, and they said, "Yeah, we are. Yeah, there are elements in this bill that are going to cut back on Medicare and Medicaid."
He has no idea.
Okay, yeah, nah, it's,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Democrats disgust me. They're just way off the ball. And then now they're punishing the younger members who have come up with more dynamic ideas on how to deal with the issues, who are saying we need new leadership. We need people that have much more dynamic positions, political positions, that are willing to take on hard positions and communicate clearly and directly with the public. That now they're saying no, wait. They're scared because Mandami he'll win in New York, and so what are they doing? What's their reaction? They're all lining up on the side of people like Eric Adams, right? And they're looking to see, okay, maybe Cuomo will run as an independent or something, right? And they're going to back that up rather than support Namdani. Okay, that's crazy,
well,
but they're scared of democratic socialism as the ideology that this primary winner embraces. So he essentially is in the same line of thinking politically, ideologically, as Bernie Sanders. Okay,
right.
and remember, I know you do, but I want our audience to remember that people who voted for Bernie Sanders in the Democratic primaries turned and voted for Donald Trump. Okay, in the major. Okay, that's what that's what happened. That's the reality of what happened. Now, how can they do that, right?
It's crazy. I've written about the latest Pew analysis of the election, of the 2024 election, where they say that it was I call it the negative diversity of Donald Trump. Blacks, Hispanics, men and women, black women, Hispanic women, and 40% of the Asians all voted for Donald Trump, and that gave him the 1.5% margin. I mean, the Republicans keep talking about how, they had some kind of, landslide. They didn't have a landslide victory, not in terms of the
it was very thin.
Yeah, very thin, 1.5%. And they're acting.
And it was several states. It was 5 states.
Yeah, and yet they're acting like this was some major. They just got in by their chinny chin chin. Here's what I was trying to find, what Speaker Johnson said as he signed this bill that turned over when the world was flipped upside down again. He said everything was an absolute disaster under the Biden-Harris radical, woke, progressive Democratic regime. And he says Democrat, I say Democrat regime. And we took the best effort that we could in one big, beautiful bill to fix as much of it as we could. And I am so grateful to God that we got that done as we did because of the dedication. You believe? And he said, and lastly, it's no secret, I do believe in God. When someone resorts
he
to God,
he also said that socialism, communism believe in one thing, and there is no God. Okay, no. I want to see where Karl Marx said that. Okay,
well, this is the thing
what
about
he said was at the end of. And he said from the beginning, the first thing is there is no God. Okay, well, nothing like that appears anywhere, right? In the original Marxist declaration. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the end, the last paragraph, right? What does he say? He says religion is the opiate of the masses.
Yeah.
He's saying religion misleads people. Okay. It's the opiate of the masses. He's saying they get drugged out on religion and they don't understand politics and the reality, right? Marxism looks at realism in history. They said the first thing you need to know is you need to know your history, and you need to know it accurately and objectively. That's one of the major first points of Marxism. Not that there is no God. Okay, he made that up. Mr. God made that up.
Yeah, and this is the thing about the modern 2025 Republicans. They want to undo history, make sure we don't know it, strip off education. DEI is just one aspect. It's really stripping down all of education and making sure we stay as uninformed as possible. And that really is what Big Ugly is all about. It's total, it's legislative. And you're talking about how the green subsidies, how that might be. That was one of the things, the sticking points for some of the Republicans. They were going to hold out. But in the end, it was from taco to caco. Congress always chickens out. They win ahead. And like you were saying before we started, Trump knows how to manipulate these guys. He knows how to give them swag.
It's really easy. Okay.
Give them swags, suck up to them, and say things like Tim Burchett, the guy from Tennessee who's really an a-hole who likes to mess around with the anchors on MSNBC and CNN. He just tries to be disagreeable and stand up for Trump. And he was quoted as saying, "Oh, I went there. We met with Trump, and Trump said he's seen me on TV and he likes me. He likes me." And other people were reporting, "Oh, and he gave all these congressmen who could have voted no. He gave them all swag and said, 'Oh, we're going to take care of this. You can trust me. I'm Donald
yeah,
Trump.'"
well, okay,
So
well, MAGA can claim them too and say they're one of us. They're like us, and they're
yeah.
right.
Hey,
They're right.
so
They're out there buying his merch, man. They're out there
oh,
buying his merch. They're buying his freaking meme.
meme coin.
Meme coin. I mean, the
Yeah.
stuff has no value. Admit it.
Well,
they,
no,
they have a
it has.
legit. They have a legit Bitcoin. As well as a meme coin, right? What does that tell you, right?
But the meme coin, it's like the value is what people put on it.
That's exactly
It
right.
has no intrinsic value. But here's the thing, though, and this is the free market thinking of the hypocrite, right? Free market for meme coins, but not free market for borders. Close the borders. Close the borders. Don't let anyone in. Don't let people come in. No freedom that way. But hey, meme coins. You can buy meme coins.
Yeah, because the meme, we can call it white coin. That's the meme.
Coin.
It's white coin.
Yeah.
The border
is.
The border is white wall. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a white wall.
He's gonna have money.
Members of our audience, if they're still listening, are going to get upset with me, if not you, for once again pushing the racism button.
Well, no, look, it is about race. It is about race, and now because the big beautiful, the so-called big beautiful bill, I call it the big ugly, not only shifts to shifts the wealth from the poor to the wealthy, tax cuts and all that, but cuts Medicaid, so the wealthy don't care about Medicaid, but the poor certainly they're going to get hit. Medi-Cal here in California, they're going to get hit. But the other thing that I think is worth noting, God, I forgot what I was going to say. It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah.
It's just
take a little hit from the tequila bottle. That'll bring it on. A little more.
Well, no. Here's the thing about the race thing. The bill does all those things, but it's really about border enforcement, right? More money for the military, more money for the border. He'll have money to build the wall that he couldn't get Mexico to pay for. And my question to you, and this goes into our next topic of immigration, because the first arrivals, Alligator Alcatraz in Florida, arrived. That place is $245 a day. That's more expensive than a Patel hotel, And
you mean per person?
Per person.
Per person, yeah.
Yeah. 200. I try to find the cheapest room when I travel. $245 a day. That should be luxury, but I think they're paying for alligator food. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I haven't been in New York in a couple of years, but I easily find very good rooms. Actually, Linda does. My wife does.
Yeah.
In very nice parts of Manhattan for under $245. Yes, it's true.
Yeah, I just think that $245 a day for Alligator Alcatraz. Now people are going there, and look, this is more marketing ploy and more fear tactics because they're deporting people. And if you are in Mexico, if you're in Honduras, and you feel like coming to America, and you see that they're deporting people and sending them to, number one, Alligator Alley, and number two, sending them not back home to where they came from, but to third countries like Djibouti.
Yeah.
They sent some Laotians and Cambodians to Djibouti.
There's a couple of African countries that they're considering. They have to build agreements.
Yeah, one plane in particular had all these, deportees that they're sending back to third countries, and it was Djibouti. And I looked up the Chamber of Commerce for Djibouti. They have a public defecation rate of 15%. Do you know that?
What?
Public defecation rate. It's real. Public defecation rate 15%. But they're
Okay,
proud
okay.
of it.
But
They're
where?
proud of it.
But where?
Huh?
Where?
But they're proud of it because
Yeah, but
San
where, man?
Francisco San Francisco's public defecation rate is higher. So they're happy. They're there.
Oh man. Yeah, well, I've noticed, but at least San Francisco cleaned up some of the touristy areas like the Embarcadero.
Yeah, I
That stuff was. I mean, last year, Linda and I walked up and down
mm,
because there was a small parade on Memorial Day. No, Veterans Day. It was a Veterans Day
mm,
parade, and so we went down there. The parade was a short one, but it went right along the Embarcadero and past Fisherman's Wharf, which was
yeah.
really cool. And so I like that better than going to City Hall and doing all that.
Oh yeah,
So
me too. Well, I'm just saying. Look, if you're in Mexico thinking of coming to America without documents or overstaying, and the penalty is you might be sent to Djibouti and become a Djiboutian.
yeah,
I don't know.
they have,
That,
but
that would
they
be a deterrent.
but
That'd be a deterrent.
wherever their poo poo is,
Yeah. It may well I
it ain't on the
Djibouti.
Embarcadero, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no Golden Gate Bridge to look at Djibouti. But
Yeah, well,
but I
maybe with
understand.
the money, they're going to make, maybe how much are they getting per night per person?
I
So
don't know. Djibouti though is well, it's a war torn area. Eritrea, Somalia, all those
yeah.
places. Not. I mean, I wouldn't say particularly safe, but um, good seafood. I understand. I wonder if.
Somalia's got that too, but I that doesn't mean I want to check it out.
Yeah. Well, not yet. I'd go to a Somalian restaurant though, or an Ethiopian restaurant.
Sure. Well, that's
Yeah.
nearby, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're all kind of, they have the same sorts of things. But anyway, look. So immigration. That's the real reason why they're saving. That's why the MAGA people love this big ugly bill because they're going to really get tough on the immigrants, and they're gonna there's
They're
gonna be
already
it's gonna
they're
be
already doing it, and
yeah,
they're gonna go tougher.
tougher. Yeah.
Now on the left though, I keep seeing all kinds of crap
Yeah.
on social media, particularly social media that's more like Instagram, where a lot of younger people go, um, and and they're starting to do blue sky, but the problem that I have is they're coming up with all kinds of conspiracy theories as well, and like they're going to go after Spanish surnames, okay, which that's going to be really fun.
Are
For us,
they? I
I
mean,
told Linda,
that's
okay, we're only traveling up to Fairfield this week, but we should bring our passports in addition to our
yeah.
real ID, right?
Well,
And make sure I don't have any weapons in the car because they might shoot me. You know?
yeah. Well, that is a conspiracy theory that they're going to come after Spanish surnames.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
As far as I can see, I haven't been able to prove that
Look,
anybody's going to do that.
the only thing that they're trying to do is inject a little fear, right? If you see that, it could be sent to a third party, deported to a third party like Djibouti, fear. If you see that people can be deported just for having a Spanish surname, fear. If you see people can be deported just because they look like they're, you
I
know,
I have
the
that T-shirt. I only look illegal. No,
I only
I
look
don't wear
illegal.
it. I don't wear it.
I know.
I'm not wearing
I,
it. I might as well wear a target, right over my
I,
my chest.
I know.
Uh,
You,
you know.
you might, or you could say, my only documents are the New York Times. Or
Oh no, that'll get you shot too.
I know, and not the Washington Post, man. So many people leaving the Post now. The
Oh yeah.
Washington Post is like, and while we're on the topic of journalism, Paramount Plus paid 16 million to Donald Trump in the shakedown, right, for that 60 Minutes interview with Kamala. I've seen the 60 Minutes interview. I don't see anything wrong with it, but
They
Paramount
said that,
want,
yeah, they were accused of editing it to make Trump look bad. That's exactly the expression in the
yeah,
lawsuit, right?
yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, what does look
You don't
bad mean? What does that
well,
mean, man?
you
Uh,
you don't have to do much to make him look bad.
yeah, yeah, but
The
in order to be truly defamatory, I mean, what court is would have decided in favor of that? And that's what Paramount Plus made that concession, right?
yeah.
In order to avoid trial. That's really what they did.
Right,
Okay,
and but the real problem is the uh, the real hit to journalists who
that's
are
right.
working at 60 Minutes, and what they should do now at 60 Minutes is change their name to 16 million, because that's how much their integrity cost.
Yeah, no, no,
16 million.
negative 16 million. Like
Negative.
when you see the debit on your account,
Yeah,
on your checking account, it got that
yeah,
little negative sign, right?
yeah.
Negative
Negative
16 mil.
16 million.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And I'm scared. I'm scared for that, because it shows that there's a method for Trump to shake, because it's the president. It was essentially a personal suit, right?
Well, and
Libel.
see, here's the other thing. You got two politicians making statements, okay? And
Mhm.
the intermediary, the journalists, are being accused of editing it in a manner that made her look better and him look worse. Now, here's the problem. Under New York Times versus Sullivan, remember that case?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's yeah.
1950s, okay? New York Times gets sued by chief of police, right? And
Mhm.
in the South, right? And he alleges that they made all of these inaccurate statements in an ad that was purchased by the SPLC, right? Southern
Mhm.
Poverty Law Center, in the New York Times. So they took out a full page ad and they had things there that they listed as facts. Some of them were substantially inaccurate. Okay.
Yeah.
And so he sued saying they defamed me. All right.
Mhm.
What was the outcome of that case? One, he lost the case. Okay. That's number one. He lost the case. Why? Because he was a public figure.
Right.
Okay. He's a public figure. Okay. And they said, wait a minute, what do you mean he's a public figure? He's just a chief of police, or a sheriff or anybody like that. They are just doing their job, right, as elected officials. And they said, that's a public figure. If you
Yeah.
put yourself in the public eye, whether it's to be elected or if you're a sports star, you're an athletic, a prominent athlete, you're a famous movie star, you're a very popular singer, you are a public figure, especially this guy. We got two public figures, right?
Yeah. Well,
Kamala, right?
this
And
is
Trump.
yeah.
And that's as high as you can go is
Yeah.
public political figures. And then what is supposed to be the case? You should be free to say whatever the hell you want about
Well,
a public
this
figure.
is the thing. The law was clear. The case law was clear. Sullivan supported Paramount and defended them,
That's right.
but they
That's
they
right.
cowed. They counted Trump, because now we should change it from Trump always chickens out to everyone always chickens out against Trump, and because that's
I
what
don't want to
happens.
take time to figure out that acronym.
Well, but everyone has chickened out against Trump. You had ABC chickened out. You
Yeah.
had now Paramount's chickened out. You've got in that whole is it Viacom? Some
I got it. EST. It's EST. Everybody S's themselves.
yeah. No,
Everybody defecates. Okay, why don't we just go clean it up? ED.
yeah. They just
EDT, right?
they given it
Everyone defecates on themselves. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what happened with the big beautiful bill too.
Yeah.
The guys who were saying no on the in the House, because they could have said no to send it back to the Senate, and then the Senate would have to fly in and try to make a vote Friday
Hmm.
or maybe even Saturday, and then Trump signs it, and then or because they would
Dude,
find some way.
they're scared of being primaried by Trump. Okay,
All right,
because
wait a minute.
because
Wait a minute.
Trump wouldn't have to primary them. Trump
All
would
right.
just have to say everybody uses their money. RNC, you use your money, right, to primary those people, and they're going to believe it because they'll do it. All right.
All right, but
Now,
wait a minute. How about
they're more afraid of Trump and the RNC than they are of Musk, who says, I'm going to primary those people who voted for this friggin' bill.
Well,
Right?
I was going to mention Musk. I was going to ask you about Musk because I think Musk is still an X factor. He could come back, and he could, but I don't know who he's going to back.
Was that a pun and a half or what?
No, I don't know who.
Okay, I get it.
I don't know who Musk would he back the Republicans? Some people say, well, this must mean he's for third parties. I don't know what it means. It just means that he is willing to put his money to defeat people who voted for this bill.
Well, what does he do? Why did he all of a sudden apologize like a month ago? Okay, after really chomping down hard and biting Trump's booty. Okay,
Well,
why did he apologize? Because Trump said, well, we ought to really look at all these contracts this guy has. Okay, so
well, yeah.
What happened? What happened?
Well,
is he confident that he's going to hold those contracts, or does he say, you know what, I can do this without them? I don't need them.
And I'm going to deport. Musk to South Africa. I mean, that's a threat. So, although they wouldn't send him to South Africa, they probably send him to Djibouti. I just like to say Djibouti. Djibouti. If they had a Djibouti, USA, I think that would be a kind of
maybe Musk would take an early trip to Mars.
I don't know.
That was he just move it. He's going to move his schedule up a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just curious if Djibouti had a pride parade. That would have been interesting.
Oh no, that would have been interesting. That would be really interesting. I don't think so. I don't think Djibouti is that. I think they still like. I think if you come out with different sexuality in Djibouti, you might be dead.
Hey, they have in Djibouti they have an Air Force base, or they have a military base rather.
Oh yeah, that's right. They do.
Yeah. So now, Dan, before we end this, there are a couple of things I want to ask you about. The Supreme Court today said that they are going to look into a law in West Virginia that challenges transgender students from participating in sports. And I just wanted to know, why is the Supreme Court getting into this, and what do you think can happen here with the court?
Well, they're getting into it because they feel that the plaintiffs have an issue. It's a real issue that somebody's being harmed.
Yeah.
So they have to resolve whether or not the harm is illegal, or unconstitutional, or is an actual harm.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, because not only is the Supreme Court obviously making decisions in a clear pattern, right, that is anti-LGBTQ plus in every way. Okay, they're also making decisions in the same direction as has been set by the banning of books, right, that have certain content. Okay, and now they're looking at DEI. Remember, CRT was the original attack on things about cultural, ethnic, and racial diversity. Okay, and then DEI, and now squarely there are several regional and local lawsuits pending against ethnic studies.
Oh yeah.
So right here in San Francisco, there's a movement against having ethnic studies in the schools, and those kinds of changes at the local school district and statewide level, right, have only taken place within the last less than 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, in San Francisco, ethnic studies began to be accredited right towards graduation, and that was the beginning of all that. Graduation from high school, and that was the
Well,
beginning of all that. And so now, because the federal courts, especially the Supreme Court, and because of the Trump administration and Project 2025, right? Uh, Even in San Francisco, uh, admittedly one of the more liberal cities in the whole country, right, uh, is having people come forward and trying to opt out of the classroom. They're following the pattern set by the SCOTUS decision to allow parents to opt out of the reading of books that are about LGBTQ plus. That's where
right.
we're at. That's exactly where they're at right now. There's only 6 cases left pending, right, in this session, and one of them is, guess what? Citizenship.
Oh yeah.
Citizenship. Okay, that's on the block right now. So you
So
better be watching.
are you talking
Now,
about birth? You're talking about birthright citizenship,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. And I noticed that some advocates are saying I am the 14th. I am the 14th Amendment. I mean, people are saying immigrants are saying there's a move right to say it use it affirm the 14th Amendment affirmatively, saying we need this. Makes us American. We are American. We're legal. Um, I hope I don't know what's going to happen. It looks like if Trump keeps winning all these things by the way by the vote margins, that people elect him and they use that as justification, and there's no crossover, there's no logical people crossing over. I don't see how it's anything but a 6-3.
Yep.
That's and so today when they have the big ugly pass, and then the Supreme Court says we're going after trans next, and then citizens next. It's scary. It's scary what America's becoming. And right now, America can be against all those, and you don't have the law. But once the law is there, then those who are just kind of nice and kind and social, they'll be out in they'll be out in the open, and it's open season. Be as racist and as hateful as you want.
There's a memo out. I didn't just say birthright citizenship. I said citizenship, and I did that intentionally because it's not only birthright citizenship that is being challenged. It is citizenship in general that's being challenged. Okay, and there's a DOJ issue. I'm sorry, a memo that was recently issued. I'm trying to find the date, but I lost my place. And that memo states, quote, to prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization proceedings, unquote, in specific cases. This includes individuals who obtain citizenship through alleged fraud, misrepresentation, or concealment of material facts during the naturalization process. The DOJ has outlined priority categories such as individuals connected to terrorism, espionage, financial fraud, violent crimes, and those who pose a threat to national security. Now, the Trump administration has had several of its officials, DHS, from Secretary of State all through DHS and National Security, saying what? That the individual graduate student from Columbia was a terror threat. Okay, this came out of the mouth of Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. Okay, it came right out of his face. Okay, so if somebody simply says, I am criticizing the Israeli government for carrying out their genocidal attack on Gaza, okay, that is grounds for an accusation of terrorism. He hasn't even been accused of that. And they're just coming down to the conclusion that he is a terrorist because of what he said. and they say we can deport him as a result. That's it. Talk about jumping over. This is way over jumping over due process, right? This is not
Yeah.
only a denial of due process, it's anti-constitutional because it concludes, right, with in a result where there's no proof.
Yeah, you know
No proof.
what this reminds me of is how Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, got her part of the Senate bill passed because she carved out Alaska. It sounds like now we're carving out the Constitution for only what we want, only what applies, and forget I mean, that's what makes this administration lawless. That's what makes this administration do what it does. And some people like that. Some people like lawlessness. Some
Well,
people,
yeah,
yeah,
I agree, but see, they don't see this as lawlessness. They see
mm,
this as an appropriate interpretation of the law and an
right,
appropriate denial, right, of the
yeah,
traditional interpretation of the law in favor of the result that they want. And the
right,
result that they want is to get rid of people. It's that simple, right?
yeah.
The
We'll
result they
get
want
rid
is
of, yeah,
especially to get rid of people who are not white, who are
right.
not of Anglo-Euro descent.
We'll find a way to get rid of you. We have laws we can manufacture just as
Or
easily as,
reinterpret. We can reinterpret them, and if we can't succeed in that regard, we'll just pass new laws.
yeah.
But when they have SCOTUS on their side, right, this is inevitable. That's
Hey,
why I ask the question: do the Democrats have the gumption? Do they have what it takes to attack the people who have been violating the Constitution and to attack them with full strength? Okay, and if they cannot do that, then they should stand aside and let the states be aggressive and assertive in pursuit of their own residents and citizens' rights. Okay, because it's the states' responsibility at this point, because the Republican Party owns the entire federal government, lock, stock, and barrel, including the SCOTUS.
so Dan, what you're saying is, I mean, you're not going as far as secession, but you're saying states have rights. You can't just have states' rights from the federal point of view when it suits you. You've got to believe in states' rights, and that means letting the states have their way on some of these uh, cultural matters.
I want to see the states develop their own police force and police actions. Okay,
We don't. We don't
the
have
state of
the.
California. State of California has police power. What does that mean? Police power is you're supposed to act in the best interests of your residents and citizens on all issues involving their health and safety. That's the absolute core meaning of police power.
So,
Okay,
uh, the California Highway Patrol is the state police, right?
they're one branch of the state police. There is a state police, and state police were used to quote quell college and university uprisings in the '60s. Remember?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I
this
sure
is.
do.
I was a little young, but I got you. But this is interesting. I think this is,
Here you
we're
go,
not
pulling
there
the age
yet.
on me again.
But tell me about a final question about America, because we're going to celebrate America's birthday.
Oh man.
What is it? I mean, it's now we're into trying to figure out, well, what is America? Well, and we're trying to figure out what is a citizen. And now it's like, what is America? Well,
Well,
what? I mean, he's making us rethink all this, and it goes back to. I mean, people may not get excited about trying to figure out what democracy is, but they do get excited about what is an American, what is America. I think it's kind of fluid right now.
well, okay. Uh, I agree that it's fluid right now, but it's always been fluid because
But
there
it's
have
going the
always
other direction. It's going in another direction.
well, yeah. We can talk about it in terms of ebb and flow, right? We can talk about it in
Mm.
terms of tides, and definitely the flow of the American tide has been from the right to the right. Okay,
Mhm.
it's been continuous, really, since I would say Nixon. Okay,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
and uh, the end of his presidency in '74.
Yeah.
I think there are two markers at that time. One of them was Roe versus Wade, which I use as a marker to show people the furthest left movement of SCOTUS, of the Supreme Court. As the furthest left movement. Okay. Before that, they had moved further to the left around what constitutes, for example, pornography, what's permissible and what's not permissible, right?
Mhm.
Uh, what is permissible in terms of arrests, searches, and seizures, what constitutes probable cause. All of those kinds of issues were being decided all throughout the 50s and 60s, all the way up to 73 with Roe versus Wade. Okay. 74 comes the Nixon resignation and the pardon. Okay.
Mhm.
That, to me, signaled the public beginning and the public recognition, right, of protection of people who committed crimes, right, and that protection of people who committed crimes that were coming from the right, coming from a
Oh yeah.
traditional conservative perspective. And since then, okay, the court has been rendering more and more opinions in that direction. And luckily, okay, because Democrats were asleep at the wheel, they voted in favor of the people who constitute now the 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. Now,
Right.
they have only themselves to blame. You know,
Yeah.
the
Well.
last time they mounted a major effort against Supreme Court justice was Bork. You know how
Yeah.
long ago that was?
Well, they lost the majority, and that Mitch McConnell, man,
Yeah,
the statement of Mitch McConnell about the bill that was passed, the
they'll
big
get
O
over
bill.
it.
Yeah, he said voters will forget. They'll get over it.
They'll get over it. Yeah, like,
That
well,
that that is.
people, and he was talking specifically about it was a response to a question having to do with the cuts that could affect
Medicaid,
people's Yes,
right,
exactly.
in Kentucky.
Their health care,
Yeah,
their access to
I'm
health care.
I mean that's the thing. Sometimes the powerful. I know. I worked there briefly in Congress. It didn't make logical sense to me. I had to leave. I didn't understand the politics. I didn't understand how people conducted themselves in terms of legislation, how they chose legislation. And I worked for one of the best guys, but I didn't understand the rest
Why don't you
of.
clarify for our audience who the best guy was?
Oh, I worked for Norman Mineta,
Right on. Truly
Congressman.
was. Yeah,
It was.
he was an upstanding example of. He was really a model of serious commitment to the
Yeah.
law and serious commitment to ethics and
Oh,
moral.
he was. He really was very different from others who I was trying to interpret their actions and what was going on, and and to Mineta's credit, he left once he realized that Congress was not Congress anymore. He left in I believe '94.
Yeah,
He
pretty early.
retired from Congress, and but I was there 90, 91, 92, and he was still going strong. And but once the Republicans came up, Newt Gingrich, the
Yeah,
contract
yeah,
on America,
yeah.
and
Well,
what's
but he had support. He got compromised from Bill Clinton.
yeah, and
You know?
that's really you got to go back. That was one of the last times the Reconciliation
Yeah,
Act was used to get things through, and that was a good thing because it controlled the budget. It was a Clinton budget, and it kept it kept the deficit. We were in surplus, I think, for a while.
It was
So,
well, that's and the Republicans love to claim that.
yeah, oh, yeah,
They love to claim that they were the reason that one, we got a balanced budget, okay, and two, it resulted in a surplus, okay.
yeah.
Uh, now you notice that that's the only time they get to claim that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're
Because the
not
rest of the
fiscal.
time they have increased the debt, the national debt, and by huge amounts.
Yeah,
By huge amount. The greatest single two increases in the national debt happened under Trump's first and second administrations.
yeah,
And then they say, "Oh no, that was all. That was all," and people believe it. They just
yeah,
as long as you can blame it on Joe.
yeah,
As long as you
yeah.
can blame it
They're
on
not.
Joe, it's Joe.
They're not. Well, I kept thinking about Joe Biden today because he's writing his memoir, and I saw when Biden and Harris took over in 2017, I really saw them as taking some time to right the ship, and that's why it took as long as it did. And then when they lost in 2024, oh, excuse me, I said 2017. I meant when they took over in 2020, they were righting the ship because it was like COVID after COVID, right? Or during a part of COVID. And they had to go from 2020 to 2024. And some people may disagree, but we were in the right direction. And now Trump comes along 2024 and everything's going back. Everything's going
Well,
back.
it's all Republicans claim that this is going to be the big beautiful, all right, is going to result in a booming economy. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll see. Not right now they're claiming credit for the recovery. I have to admit, I told everyone, look at your IRA is going to scare the hell out of you. You know,
Yeah.
several, in January and February when the tariffs were being talked about and all that stuff, and it
Mm.
took a major dip, right? And I said, but
Mm.
you have to watch what you're invested in through your IRAs, okay? But it'll recover, okay? My IRA didn't only recover; it actually gained, okay?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well,
a lot of that is because I have one of the better plans that privately you and I know which plan I have, and
yeah.
I know that it's very you can be very hands on with the plan. You don't have to sit there and let it roll like a regular mutual. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's I got an advantage there. All right, it's actually growing at a faster rate. That doesn't mean I'm going to support the outcomes of the BBB, right? I
Yeah. Well,
understand that
yeah.
that's an effect, but see, that's only because Wall Street wants to invest in something. They want to do
Yeah.
something positive. So there's a lot of tension there for them to
Yeah.
bring that up.
Yeah.
But is
But
that going to result in people being hired? How many hundreds of thousands of people have lost their jobs due to Doge, right?
yeah. The Doge cuts. I just think that let's just wait and see. Let's be hopeful. July 4th tomorrow. But I want to close with this idea. About what it means to be an American. We got to be thinking about that tomorrow, especially when the tax on citizenship, this bill coming up. Well, what does it mean to be an American? I mean, because it seems like everyone wants to put on the facade of being friendly and community oriented, but no one wants to acknowledge who you are and why you're different, or if you're LGBTQ, or they don't want to talk about race. I mean, I was reading what some guy wrote about, hey, is this a liberal town, or is this they're talking about a small town? Is it LGBTQ friendly? And they said, this one guy said, we are a conservative community. We mind our own business and treat people the way we'd like to be treated, with dignity and respect. Don't move here if you want the whole town to recognize who you are or what you claim to be. It won't happen. We live and let live, which is like a contradictory paragraph.
Internal contradiction, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an
I mean, live
internal
and let live.
contradiction.
It's like don't ask, don't tell. We don't want to know. Mind your own business. We'll mind ours. We don't care about you. You don't care about us. That's community. I don't know. It's like that's what America is becoming.
Well, yeah. I mean, the signals were all there, beginning in the late '60s with the development of the term survivalist. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what some of the most popular shows, realist shows, which are much more realistic than others, right?
Hmm.
Are about survival, right?
Yeah.
All those shows about how many shows are there about people, living alone in Alaska? Okay, now
Oh
they're
yeah.
starting to look at desert spaces, and they're starting to look at islands and all that stuff, and that's where we're at. There's this celebration of the individual and this pretend of commitment to community. Does community occur? Yes, it does. Is it healthy? In many instances, yes, it is. It's better than living like a bunch of hermits, right?
Yeah.
It's better than doing that. But what cost? What do you have to do to belong in a community? And what you're asking is, what do you have to do to be American? Who gets to define who is American? And what is enough of being American? What is it about America? What is it about the United States of America that you believe in that makes you, quote, love this country, unquote? Okay. It's hard
Well,
to love a country that you're afraid of. And right
or
now, I'm afraid of this country.
yeah. Well, hard to love a country where you don't love all the people in it.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do. I don't think we have to love all the people in it. I think we have to tolerate them at the least. Okay.
Well,
And
like this
and
guy
and
says, I don't want to know about you. You know, you might, don't ask, don't tell, live your life, and we can live on the surface. That's the problem with that kind of thinking. But you're right about how do you love other people. There's a question that comes before: how do you love your country when it doesn't love you back?
what is it about the country that you love? You have to do that. I even as a child, I questioned whether or not I loved the country. I loved the concept. Okay.
Mm.
I when
I
I was,
like, yeah.
I loved the concept. I loved things that this country has allowed us to earn, right? Uh, I love the fact that my parents were able to lift themselves up from near squalid poverty. Okay. Certainly, they lifted themselves up, in my father's case, from the poverty of the Philippines, from agricultural Philippines. My mother lived more of a middle class life.
Mm.
The hard part of her life was suffering through the Japanese occupation during World War II.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she came from a much more middle class life. Everybody in her family, all her older siblings, college educated, right? They became teachers, and my uncle's case, a principal, a school principal, that kind of thing. Okay, but when they came here, they lived in real poverty. You're familiar with the neighborhoods. You lived in some of those neighborhoods as well.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
and there were people living in the same areas that were poorer than us.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that. There were also people in the same neighborhood that were wealthier than us, because there were some people, Filipinos, who owned the buildings, right? They owned
Oh yeah.
flats that were 6 units flats. Remember, there were
Oh
three
yeah. Oh yeah.
three units on each side of these flats, and within just a couple of years, they were able to buy new properties in the parts of town where we were allowed to buy property, right? Because there
Right.
was,
I mean,
racial
uh,
covenants against non-whites buying property.
just my luck. My dad would rather play poker than Monopoly. Had he played Monopoly, he would have bought more Baltic Avenue.
Maybe a Park Street hotel. You never know.
Yeah.
But
So
anyway,
A
yeah,
Baltic hotel. But
yeah,
look,
yeah. Your
the
Baltic's
the
good. Don't forget about Broadway. You buy something on Broadway. Yeah.
see, this is the thing about we go from the big ugly to talking about what it means to be an American, because this is July 4th, and I know that Donald Trump was going for the irony. We signed the Declaration of Independence 1775, 2025. We're signing the big, beautiful, but it's not so beautiful for everyone. It's going to be beautiful for some, not all.
And like I said, it's the Democrats got the wrong message. They're telling people this is gonna take away your health care, and it will, but it will do it slowly in many instances. They're not going to feel it in immediate terms. Some people will, and so they should focus on the stories of those people who are in fact losing their medical care. They need to focus on that. They need to quit making these generalized statements, and because they're not going to feel the immediate impact with the great kind of adversity that causes people to question decisions that they've made, to question how they're going to vote, next year. Okay, and so your message has to really be based on the immediacies. And they had the right idea when they were talking about prices, because the prices are still up, okay?
Yeah.
And the costs are likely to increase. You can't talk about gas prices because there are too many external factors that affect whether or not our gas prices go up or down, okay? And they can be manipulated by the oil companies themselves.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, in the end, this is going to be, they're going to come back to, the dollars and cents and the bottom line.
Yes.
And really, it should be this philosophical question. What does it mean to be in America? What does it mean for all of us to share in this? What does it mean for, if you're an American by birthright or naturalized, if you come to this country, what does it mean when you suddenly see the country going against you? And how do you reconcile that with your love of country? And how can you love a country where everything's going against you? You feel like you don't belong. So these are
there's always
the kind
denial. In our own community, there's always denial.
Oh, denial. That's in Egypt, isn't it? Okay, but this is the thing. This is the thing that this should be the fireworks of 4th of July. The discussions, because that's freedom, that's America. So people get into some conversation, talk to your neighbors, let them know that they're a-holes if they are. No. Be nice. Be nice. Be loving. Be kind.
Yeah, be careful. Be safe. And, it's in the midst of all of the fireworks. Remember, last year there were attacks committed by so-called lone wolves. And this year, there's even greater possibility because of the recent actions taken by Israel and the U.S. in support of Israel. Yeah. So that's where we're at, man. Be happy if you're with family. Try to enjoy the day. But I am with you. You got to reflect on what is America and who is American. Who are you as an American?
Yeah. Right? It's a reflective time, not just for bang, bang, boom, but for wondering what do those stars and stripes mean? What does it mean that we can set off fireworks from China here over our skies and celebrate the big ugly? Well, the fact that we are able to still live under the big ugly if we disagree. We can disagree. Now, that's the other thing. People don't think we can disagree sometimes, but we can disagree. And the fact that some people are fearful of disagreeing, they don't. And then they're becoming non-American.
Well, that's one of the things that I love about America most is our right to have our own perspective. The problem is that some people are willing to act in very violent ways against those who don't share their perspective. And then the majority of us say that's okay. We can, we can allow them to have weapons, with which they can attack us and commit murders. So that's where we're at. That's where we live.
That's America. Well, all right. Look, I just say start small with a plate of vegetables and tofu. Kind veganism will get you toward the cruelty-free lifestyle.
They gotta
And
have more vegan ice cream available, man. That's the
hey,
problem. You know?
you can get Ben and Jerry's non dairy
Yeah, I know.
anyway.
They
You
don't.
go to
They don't make it.
Target.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy. I mean, not enough supermarkets carry the stuff. You got to go to Whole Foods. You know, you got to.
No, no,
You
you
know,
can get it. I think you can get it at Target. Although I have to say this, when it first came out, I ate a lot of non-dairy. Like I'll say Ben and Jerry's because I like the Chunky Monkey. I'm a Chunky Monkey fan, but it takes one Chunky Monkey to know a Chunky Monkey.
yeah, that's right.
But the
In
thing
honor of
is,
our fathers who suffered through the monkey thing.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, that's right. They suffered through that. But the thing is, it's better not to have that. It's better not to have any ice cream. It's just I'm an ice water guy now. Ice water, tofu, some greens. I'm good. Happy
That's
Fourth.
so even vegan ice cream is not good enough for you anymore.
No,
What?
it's good. It's
You're
good.
such a
But
purist, man.
it's a treat. It's a treat. It's not, vegan ice cream is. I like a good vegan ice cream, but it's a treat. I'm not even drinking as much now. I'm not even drinking as much. My God, ice
Yeah,
water for me. I'm so
drink it.
a lot
Yeah,
of people aren't drinking now. At
yeah,
the comedy
yeah. They're
clubs, they're
losing
not. They're
money.
not.
That's right. A lot of vineyards are going to shut down.
Yeah.
A lot of
Well.
vineyards are going to shut down. We see, out of self-interest, Linda and I don't really care because we have this Pinot Grigio vine that just will not die in our yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And you
massive.
make your own. You make your own wine.
We can. It's massive, man. I mean, this thing just puts out grapes like it's literally it's like loaves and fishes all over again, right? I think
Yeah.
this thing was blessed by something, but it's
Hey.
unbelievable. You can
Hey.
cut
Well.
it back all the way to the stalk, you know,
Yeah.
in the winter, and
Yeah.
boy, by the summer, it's got vines growing 30 feet out. It's crazy.
Wow. Pinot Grigio. Well, that's a white. I would have
It's a
figured
white.
you were a red
It's
guy.
white.
I'd figure you were a red guy, but white. Yeah. But
I
hey,
can go. I can go either way, but Linda favors stuff with less tannin.
I
She's
see. I
she
see.
has little allergy to tannins, so
I see.
red
Well, that
give her a headache.
perfect, perfectly understandable. All right. I knew that this would happen. That the longer we go on, something would happen. And the breaking news: Supreme Court lets Trump deport 8 migrants to South Sudan.
There it is. That's the other place I was thinking of was
South
Sudan.
Sudan.
Yeah,
So
and because they had been talking about South Sudan, earlier in the year, and so there we are.
it says the Supreme Court Thursday allowed the government to deport 8 men who have spent more than a month held under guard on a military base on Djibouti. The order allows the government to immediately send the men who hail from countries around the world to war-torn South Sudan. And so, of course, Sonia Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented. I mean, this is kind of cruel and unusual. You come from wherever, Laos, Cambodia, Mexico. You come to America, and Kagan is the one who dissented earlier, and she went with the majority. And now they're deporting you to South Sudan. That just seems cruel. They're from Vietnam, South Korea, Mexico, Laos, Cuba, Myanmar. Just one from South Sudan.
Yeah. Well,
So
what is there? What? Okay. We know that a lot of people who have been picked up by ICE have committed no crimes.
yeah,
Okay. So what was the status of these people before they were deported?
I
Were
think
they
they were the
actually?
they've all been convicted of serious crimes in the U.S.
Okay.
and their flight landed instead. They were going to a third country. They were headed to Sudan. Instead, they were sent to Djibouti. And so, Now the Supreme Court is the last stop, right?
That's where
Next
we're
up.
going. That's what I said. The Democrats have the gumption to go up and do things that are going to get frustrated by the Supreme Court anyway. That I should have
Yeah.
been clearer about what but
No, I mean,
it's they're going to get frustrated by the Supreme Court anyway.
yeah.
It's going to be 6-3-5-4 all the way down the line.
Well, we have a year before the midterm, and then
Yeah,
we
but
have
even if we win all of that, right? We get the presidency, both houses. So what? You got that
yeah,
Supreme Court.
yeah,
And even if you were able to repair some of the damage done to the DOJ and all of its branches, especially the enforcement branches, the FBI, even if you can repair all of that, what kind of decisions are you going to get,
well, well,
at the federal
uh,
courts?
well, thank you, Dan. You're now driven me to drink on the 4th of July, and
Yeah, but you're going to just drink ice water. It'll just make you pee a lot. It's not a whole penalty. That's not a big penalty.
anyway, all
I
right.
just I have my favorite electrolyte. I found this powdered electrolyte.
Oh yeah, I do that.
That
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's terrific.
What do
You
you
don't have
use?
to have volumes of gallons of stuff in your fridge. It's
What do you
you
What
can
do you
make it as
use?
you want. And this sucker is pineapple coconut. So
Oh yeah.
it tastes like a freaking pina colada.
What brand do you like
I
to
can't
use? Not
remember. I'll text it to you, but I can't
I
remember. But
use
it's really
I
good.
use an electrolyte too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's great because it runs my iPhone and the electrolytes. And
If your battery
all right,
discharges, you just put
yeah,
a little urine on it.
yeah. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Hey, so Dan, well, look,
Charges right up.
yeah.
Charge right up. Yeah, as happy as we
I can
can
make
be, man.
calls anywhere.
I'm
Hey,
going to call some of my veteran friends and say,
yeah.
look, man, especially the Vietnam veterans,
Oh yeah.
I got to ask them. I got to ask them how you feel about what's going on, because a lot of the Vietnam veterans that or veterans generally, I mean, a lot of them are younger than Vietnam, but that I crewed
Yeah.
with on the sailboat, were
Mhm.
pro-Trump and very anti-Hillary and very anti-Harris and
Yeah.
anti-Biden and all that. And how do they feel? And
Yeah.
a lot of these guys are dependent on the VA and the combination of VA and Medicare, Medi-Cal,
Yeah.
Medicaid. You know,
Well, hey, listen. Well, happy Fourth to you. Happy Fourth to one of our loyal listener viewers, Juanita Sulai Wilson. We'll survive this. I wish you a quiet, peaceful 4th of July too. Also,
yeah,
Juanita. Also to Dan. Thanks for joining me on the 3rd. We'll repeat this throughout the weekend, and thanks.
yep, yep. Be safe, everybody. Enjoy your
Okay.
Fourth. Don't overeat. Try to
No,
go
oh,
vegan.
vegan
Vegan
hot dogs.
years
Vegan hot
ago.
dogs. I discovered
And
vegan
thank you,
hot dogs.
Juanita, for being kind,
Yeah,
a
she was very
regular
kind.
a regular audience member, and also just being a kind person. There's not
Yeah,
enough of you around. Okay.
yes. And I wish you many vegan hot dogs tomorrow. And
Yeah,
many vegan hot dogs
they're too
flowing.
salty. They're too salty. Even I am off hot dogs now.
There-
I just don't do those anymore.
a lot of sodium, but vegan hot dogs. I mean, they're not. You watch the sodium. They're all right. All right. All
Yeah.
right, Dan.
All right, man.
All right,
Thank
take
you
care,
very
man.
much. Say
Happy
hi.
Fourth.
Hugs.
All right,
Hugs to
take
Kathy.
care. There it is. Bye. There's Dan, my friend Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University, Professor Emeritus. Boy, we just end up talking. I know Dan since I was like in my 20s. That's a long time. And if you go to my YouTube page, you'll see a picture of me in my perm days. When a young picture of me and Dan. I don't know where that was. I think it was some kind of Kiwanis club or something. I don't know. Honoring Filipinos. Anyway, yeah, think about the 4th of July. Think about it. There's a lot to think about. A lot to think about the 4th of July. And if you're with us and you join us late, go back up to the front. We talk about the big ugly. We talk about all the things that you need to hear about the big ugly and what to do. And then we talk about some other things. Let me close with a plug. Of course, Emil Amok, 69. That's my one-man show. I do a one-man show. Just me talking like this. I know Hakeem Jeffries talked for, 8 hours, 9 hours. And then Dan and I just talked for about an hour and 40 minutes. It doesn't hold a candle, but have a conversation with your friends this weekend, like we were saying, talking about what it means to be American. All right, so I do this one-man show, Emil Amok 69. I'm at the Winnipeg Fringe, July 16th through 27th. Catch it. If you happen to be in Winnipeg, there are a lot of Filipinos in Winnipeg. If you have relatives in Winnipeg, call them, tell them, hey, you got to listen to or watch this Emil Amok guy. He's going to be, at the Royal Manitoba Theater. Check it out. Emil at the Winnipeg Fringe, July 16th through 27th. And if you're watching me, there's a link. You just go to the link. And see me live. It should be a fun show. Fun show talking about what else? Just the biggest story in our lives. I'm talking about the biggest story in our lives. The biggest story of our lives. So catch it. Winnipeg Fringe, July 16th through 27th. Oh, Dan says it was the top 10 Filipinos award in the early 80s. That's what it was. Oh, and I was number 11, no doubt. So anyway, that's the picture of Dan and me. All right, hey, if you're with us live, thank you for being live. I hope you're not a bot. If you're a bot, hey, go to, learn to be human. Tell your bot friends to cool it. We're humans. We're still in charge. But no, seriously, we like to end the show with a little loving kindness. Because that's what the world, well, Jackie DeShannon said what the world needs now is love, sweet love. But loving kindness. Loving, kind. Not just love. I mean, love is good. Loving kindness. Just be kind. That gives people, who, need space. It gives them space. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Oh man, when I think of living with ease, I think of Diddy and the baby oil. That was living with ease, I think. He should have. We should have talked more. Go check out the show before yesterday's show. I talked 895. I talked about what I think. If you're a woman, it's terrible. It's terrible. We should be treating our women with respect. But that wasn't the issue, right? The issue was racketeering. The issue was prostitution. So he got the lesser charges, not the big charge. Lawless. As I said, Diddy is the Black Trump. He is the Black Trump. Think about that. Trump isn't the white Diddy. No, he's not the white Diddy. Melania knows he's not the white Diddy. But both of them, Diddy and Trump like to watch. Well, we know Diddy in the trial, he said he liked to watch. Trump liked to watch January 6th. He was watching Fox News. He was watching the insurrection. Anyway. Emil Amok here. Till next time. Mahal Kita. I mean that. I mean that. Look it up. Do a Google Translate. Mahal Kita. Dan says, is Kanye the Black Vance? He might be the Black Vance. I don't know. He might be. Till next time, have a happy 4th. Or as we say in the Philippines, have a happy port. Port.